You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here. Now be sure to watch Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV by subscribing on YouTube and following them on social media for all the latest Leicester City news and information. Come on you foxes!
Of the net.
You're watching Leicester Till I Die TV.
Watch us on YouTube.
Listen on your favourite podcast platform.
Or ask your smart speaker
To play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow, and join in now.
Right, Chris.
Sorry, good evening. Just checking my watch is still working. 7 minutes? 7 minutes of injury time? Bloody hell. That's worse than Fergie time. Good evening. Leicester Till I Die TV. How the devil are you? We are live. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. This is where you can find us.
Watch us on YouTube.
Listen on your favourite podcast platform.
Or ask your smart speaker
To play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow, and join in now.
How the devil are we? Good evening. All right there? All right at the back? Oh, I'll tell you what. Well, you know what? This is going to be interesting because we've already got a difference of opinion between myself and Brad. Totally agree with what Brad's saying. But for me, we're lucky or what? I mean, Brentford were all over us. But look, what a difference a week makes in politics, they say. In football, it makes even more of a difference. Man United, Spartak Moscow, Brentford, 3 wins out of 3. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better than that. Could you, Brad?
No, you really couldn't, Chris. And it was very pleasing to get that win. That's probably, and because we're a Leicester show, I don't want to touch on it too much because we're going to talk about a lot of things, all things Leicester, really. But I just wanted to say, well done, Brentford, because they're going to be one of the hardest teams to beat away from home this season. They really are. They must be looking at their results, wondering how in the last couple of weeks they've not got something out of Chelsea and Leicester, respectively. But it's just great to keep the good times rolling, and they don't get no respite. They've got to take that into the midweek. But for now, we'll just enjoy a very hard-earned 3 points.
It was, and I mean, it's one of the few things that I've probably got right this season in my predictions, that Brentford were the best of the 3 that have come up, and so they're proving. I mean, I must admit, I think we were lucky. I really, really do. But you make the very valid point, as Chelsea must have felt they were lucky in Brentford's last game, and Brentford must be counting themselves unlucky. It was a hard game, and maybe I was expecting too much after the last 2 games. You know, they were on us. We weren't allowed to play. They were what I would call a typical championship club coming up for that first season.
Yeah, they were. And again, it's credit to them. I mean, I know you spoke highly of them before the season started. You tipped them to be very, very safe and secure, shall we say, for the season in terms of where they'll finish. And I have held my hands up and said I've caught the Brentford bug, if you will. Don't worry, I know there's COVID. I don't mean it as in I'm ill. I'm just saying terminology. But I've been watching a few of their games. I've listened to the Chelsea game because my stream went down to watch it. I watched the Liverpool game. I watched the Arsenal game, and I think this was one of the most predictable games in terms of how it would be played. on how a lot of people had expected it. 45 to 65 minutes of constant Brentford pressure, which Leicester and any team that's going, like I said, I'm generally saying any team that's going to get a result from Brentford at Brentford this season, they're going to have to be resolute. They're going to have to hold firm. They're going to have to soak up a lot of pressure because, and in the end, that's what Leicester did.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, you could have said they had 9 chances to our 2 and gone 1 in at half time. I know I'm not fond of it, but to tell a game that doesn't tell how it was really played, Leicester ended up with more shots on target, I think, in the end, something like that. So
we will be coming on to the stats later, don't worry. Facebook user says there, we're on Crime Watch later. And I just want to bring some breaking news in here. I do. Oh dear, 18 minutes played, Manchester United 0, Liverpool 2.
oh dear.
Yes.
Oh dear, oh dear. Who scored
what?
second? Let me guess, Salah. Let me guess.
I've no idea. I haven't got that up. But I'll be honest with you. On all my predictions, I've gone for a Liverpool win. But the other night, I did the prediction on Rich Sports, which is the Man United channel, as you well know. And I actually, after the way that they came back midweek, I actually slipped slightly. I said, it might be a draw. But, you know, then I didn't take into consideration the Ollie factor. The fact of,
well, if you want some embarrassing news, mate, I got halfway through predicting the scores on our long ball app, got distracted by something, so I chewed it away and thought I'll do it later, and it saved half of my predictions, but there's half the games I've missed. So I've done a 7-0 Norwich this week. I've guaranteed myself very, very little chance of getting any points this week. So on that one, I'm keeping up my standards.
Should mention that you have got 6.5 points this week.
Oh, I must. You know what? I'm going to start doing it then. I'm going to start doing half points. I'm going to start doing half the points.
I only got 7 points and I did everything, you know, but I had a bad Saturday. And I didn't, I certainly didn't predict the West Ham results earlier on, but
no, I think I'm safe at the top of our predictions show, though, aren't I? I think
you are. I have fallen down quicker than the bride's knickers on a wedding night on that one, I'll tell you.
Fallen down quicker than Salah off a blade of grass.
Rob McFarlane, hi guys. Brentford are a dangerous team that will be okay this year. Yes, they will. Totally. Next season will be do they get the Leeds United, Sheffield United bug? Terry and his dog, and I don't mean his. I always say that. I always think people think I'm referring to his missus. He has got a dog who doesn't like Brad's cuckoo clock. So we are just 1 point off the European place. Plus, I predicted the result with my banker as well. So happy days all round. As indeed did I.
At least you remembered, Terry. Well done.
Michael, David, good evening. City was poor in the first half. Like I say, it wasn't our best game, but then I think you've got to give, unlike Leicester, who didn't get credit last week when we beat Man United, the fact that we were good and we didn't let them play. I'm going to say Brentford didn't let us play as well as we could have done, and all credit to Brentford. And I was actually on Talk Sport this morning. I think it was on video. So if you're watching Max and Glenn's show this morning, yeah, I'll have been live on there, which was not a sight to be seen first thing in the morning. But I actually did make the comment there that the mainstream media do not like to give credit to Leicester, and that it was all about Man United losing, not us winning. I just got that in for the team. There. Brookline from America. Good evening, sir. How the devil are you? Your man Vestergaard looked good. One of his better cameos, I think that was, in fairness.
See the smug look there, Brookline, after your Craig comment saying he was your favourite. Love you, mate. Caught you out there with my YouTube name.
Minor, good evening. How the devil are you? Oh, it's Jeff. Okay, Jeff, what you doing? Hi, Chris and Brad. A win. Whilst not near top form is a great result. Of course it is. Of course it is. Ready B, what a goal by Tillemans. As I put in Facebook when he scored it, don't care what he wants, just go and give it to him. Give it to him and double it and pay him. It was up there with the FA goal, I'll tell you. Question here from Baron. How was the performance by Patson, Daka and Vardy? We'll be coming on to that later, Baron, when we look at the team. But let's just take this, Brad. And when you saw the team, when it was first announced, I was very happy with it. Brendan seems to be getting the message that if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah, it was exactly what I reckon 95% of Leicester fans were predicting. There may have been people calling for Daka to start for obvious reasons of what he did in midweek. There was even, and I can't believe I'm saying this, even the pundits were able to notice that if you're going to play a two up front, you can't really have two Vardys on the pitch, because although obviously they're similar in what they do to a degree, they're very close in what they do at the same time. They play on the shoulder of the last man. They hold the ball up. They make them breaking runs in behind the defence to get goals or set them up, like we've seen in the last 3 games from him. And that was an 11 that I think, minus maybe some people saying I wouldn't mind seeing Daka in that 11. I think he deserves it, which I wouldn't have argued with if Daka had been in the starting 11, by the way.
No.
It was pretty much what everybody was either expecting or wanting to see. It's a strong lineup, mate. It's imagine what a consistent team can do, isn't it? It's imagine what a starting 11 each week can do.
Oh, it is, and I'm going to be honest with you. I think we all accepted that. I know Daka had scored 4 goals, of course. Amazing performance. But we all knew Jamie Vardy was going to start the game. Because, Brendan has said so virtually straight afterwards. And in fairness, we've got the squad, and there's no point having the squad if you're not gonna use it.
Exactly. Got to utilise the squad.
That said, I don't know if anybody's seen an update on Vardy's injury, but apparently his leg was strapped when he came off.
Yeah, I heard that, and I think he may have just overstretched something. I don't particularly think it's too bad of a thing. He was sat on the bench. He didn't obviously need to go for a scan or anything immediately.
No.
So we keep that in cross. Obviously, what is positive, again, just shows how quickly things can turn around in football, is I don't think for the first time in a long time there's too much worry if Jamie Vardy's not available for midweek.
No. And I think the thing we've got to take into account as well now is, when you look at the bench that was up a second ago, and it's a really, really, really strong bench, and we've been screaming out for having a decent squad. And I think now we've got that squad. And, normally if Vardy had gone off, you'd be, oh, God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We'll just bring on the guy that got 4 goals in the Europa Cup midweek. Hey, it's not bad. And I don't obviously wish Jamie Vardy sort of, any longer an injury than it will be. But, if you know what I mean, it's like we've got the cover there now. Going on to the match, 3 minutes in, possible penalty. The funny thing was that I think it was on Tony, but the Brentford player wasn't even asking for it. And having said that, I think Schmeichel had a punch that Tyson Fury would have been pleased with.
No, I don't think it was a penalty. It's not often we say this, and I know there's people out there that will always find ways to criticise refs, but I actually think the officials had a good game. They allowed things to flow. They didn't waste 6.5 minutes checking things. They got on with it. I just think it was a very good performance, from the officials. And no, it wasn't a penalty. It was just, it was one of them that I think a few weeks ago we'd be sat here going, and of course Leicester conceded from it, or something like that. And it just shows, again, it reiterates what happens to a team when they have a steady unit. I think if that was another week or another game where Brendan had got to yet again put a different back three together, and I know we'll get on to him later on in the game, but having a solid Marty next to your Soyuncu and Evans was critical for this game, because they've got an understanding, they've built a development. And I know Evans and Marty and Soyuncu have been there for a while. It shouldn't be that difficult, but as we've seen already this season with the chopping change of Vestergaard and Marty, two at the back, three at the back, you know, these 3 games to be able to play such a positive in having a settled back three, I think paid dividends coming up against the challenge that Leicester are up against in Brentford today.
Yeah. 6 minutes in, for once, we've got to say thank you, VAR.
Yeah, we do, but he was offside. I mean, the one thing that really confused me is everybody's like, "Oh, well, he's only a sleeve offside." Yeah, but the guy who's obstructing and interfering with play was half foot offside. His foot was closer to Schmeichel than it was the blue and red lines. I don't know why them lines were so close, but the guy in the middle next to Tony was clearly offside.
I think the guy that crossed the ball in was offside as well, wasn't
yeah,
it?
he was talking that as well.
Yeah.
And that credit to the defence. That was clearly something Leicester knew and Brendan knew they would come up against today. And for the majority of it, they did a really good job of catching Brentford out. I think they were probably offside more times than they had shots in the end. Yes. Brentford, for our defensive line.
Good evening, Static. We've gone above you as an Arsenal fan, gone above you. Ready for next week? Are you getting worried yet? Because I tell you what, we are. We'll come on to Arsenal, obviously, in a separate show, but I'd have sooner played you at the start of the season. Rob says here, when is Fofana going to be fit? I think as soon as Man United want to buy him, if the rumours are true, but I think it's going to be January. Baron here, Dak should be starting the games. Any thought about that? Yeah, Baron, I'm guessing you're from our Zimbabwe fan club over there. Daka got 4, but we've got 3 strikers. They're going to be rotated. Daka, I think, will start against Brighton midweek, but we have got the squad, and it's always going to be Vardy that's going to be first choice. Until he has a bad game, maybe, or until he's injured. But we will see all 3 of these strikers playing. And I think the only person that's probably going to see a lot more of is Inacho, because if he does stick with these 2 up front, as you alluded to earlier, Brad, it's got to be Daka or Vardy with Inacho, although today wasn't his best game.
No, true, but I think that's the way forward, not just for this season. I think not just coming weeks either, but coming seasons, you need to be getting Daka and Nacho on that pitch. I think you need to be making sure if you're taking one off, unless they're having a horrible performance, like Vardy's got a hat-trick or something, and even then you could take him off because he's got a hat-trick in that case. You're probably going to see the majority of the time that if one of them's on the bench, it's going to be Vardy that comes off for the likewise, because Leicester, that's one thing that we're very confident with Leicester, is going forward, we know where we're going before we're even there, and in the sense that maybe now it's coming to fruition that we're going to see. I think all 3 frontmen will get enough game time, either with the help of competitions and playing a lot of games, or just the general consensus of how we're going to go about our business up front, that Daka and Iniacho and Vardy are going to get enough time that satisfies them for what they're expecting to play here at the club, especially in this season.
Yes. Against the underplay, who cares? What a goal! Like I said at the start, let's just give give Tielemans whatever he needs. I think I'm coming around to the fact that we are going to lose him almost certainly. And I had this conversation again on Talk Sport this morning with the guys on that. We I've said many times, we're not a selling club. We don't have to sell, but there's always somebody bigger out there. Madrid to Man United, Man United to us. But we're going to get a fortune for him if we sell him. But just go and break the bank, please, Top.
Yeah, look, here's something that I think Leicester fans should look as a perspective of whole. We don't know what's going to happen. He could sign. I think Yuri Tillemans is just as likely to sign a new deal as he is to leave in the summer. I genuinely think that, because you saw with his celebration. I think if a player's got one eye on a move, even this early into the season, I think what Leicester fans need to do now is just enjoy it. Enjoy every moment. Even if in 3 weeks' time he comes out that he's agreed a new 3-year, 4-year, 5-year, 2-year deal, whatever it is, he agrees a deal. Or
No guarantee he'll stay, of course.
Yeah, no, of course there's no doubt to say, but obviously then it again already adds more value to him to get him out of his contract alone. So Leicester assure themselves, then they give themselves a couple more years to replace him. You know, if Leicester hit their objectives, and we don't know exactly what the club's objectives are, we've got an idea that they're going to want European football and to continue bringing silverware in. But if Leicester were to do their high-end objective, which you would assume is breaking to the Champions League, even if it's a 2-year extension, it's not going to cost someone an arm and a leg to break him out of that, but he then gets a crack at the Champions League should Leicester make top 4, if you know what I mean.
Do you think he's waiting to see where we finish this season?
I
think he's got this season and next season on his contract, hasn't he?
Yes, he does, and that does play into Leicester's hands. I mean, obviously, it's an event we can only hypothesise about in the summer if he's not signed a new deal. That Leicester, obviously, we could talk about, will Leicester want to keep hold of him? You don't want to lose a value on a player like that. But I just think, regardless of what happens, until something is concrete that says he's going or he's signing a new deal, enjoy him. Because sometimes with footballers, not just Leicester as a club, but clubs all around, they forget to enjoy these players because they don't come around that often to your club, right? And yes, Leicester have a knack of replacing them. You know, Kante with with Indeed, he's been his replacement. Samore and Matt, already looks great for Yorick, but you've got to enjoy him in the here and now. Because I never want a player of Yori's quality and how humble he is as a person. I don't want him leaving in the summer, first of all, but I don't want him leaving in the summer with Leicester fans going, oh, well, you went for the money, No, enjoy him. Let him do what he wants to do. And if he signs a new deal, fantastic. And if we get a great run in the European...
I know we got the 3 points today. I'm going to still have a moan. And I did post this on Facebook. For God's sake, Brendan, will you stop this farting about, playing across the back? We had a goal kick. Schmeichel was going to kick it right upfield, and he changed his mind and kicked it across, I think probably to Soyuncu on the left in the defensive position, and it went out for a throw-in. For fuck's sake, kick the ball up. This playing out from the back, especially against the Brentford, the way they were playing. Look, you say, Brendan says that he looks at each game and he picks his team depending on who we're playing. Well, okay, sort your tactics out then, mate. Because when we're playing Brentford, don't fart about with it at the back because they're going to close us down. They've got to every first and most second balls today. And, yes, if we're playing somebody who's not playing such a high line against us, then we can get away with it. But we went from having a goal kick to conceding a conceding a throw-in within our defensive zone. It's stupid, ridiculous. Cut it out, Brendan.
The problem is, mate, he's not going to cut it out because he's been doing it since the day he's here. And it also seems to be a trend of every single team around England at the moment. Not just Leicester, not just in the Premier League, but all around. And the thing is, I'm going to come out and say something here that might, rattle a few people, but I actually didn't mind it today. Yes, we do give the ball away. Yes, it goes out for a throw-in, but you look at our goal. Now, yes, the people will say, well, we kicked it long and look what happened, Brad. The thing is, right, we hit Brentford quick. And I think that the idea is if we can get the ball, because yes, it worked. Great. A long ball up the field worked, right? But what happens if that ball goes in the air, it loops down, and it takes like forever to come out the air? then Brentford get a chance to get men behind the ball. I think the reason we didn't see
But
the
then
long
if we're
ball
playing
today,
out from the back, that still gives them time to get men behind the ball because it's
yeah,
still
but
in
you,
our half. And if
yeah,
we
but you
lose the ball,
you literally just contradicted yourself because you literally said they press at us. So what
yeah.
happens? And we'll come to it in
Well,
the
there's
tactical
11
side.
players on the team. You're not getting 11 players pressing us, are you? You're getting the
No,
front
but
half of the team pressing us.
well,
But
again,
if we kick
I'll
the
get on.
ball up, you've just said then, right? If you kick the ball right up the other end of the field and it comes down, they've got players behind the ball, they may win it. But they've won it in our half. Which then gives our players time to get back. They're not winning a throw-in on our box yard, 10-yard box, whatever
Yeah.
yard box it
Well,
is.
look, I'll do a more.
Mm.
I'll do a more defense of it in the tactical section that I have on the show. But honestly, yes, it was frustrating. Yes, they need to knock out the silly passes and they need to do it when it's appropriate. But I think the intent was get the ball, drag them out, get them closing us down, squeeze that pass through the middle, and we'll hit them on the counter, which we did more in the second half. You have to admit, in the second half, we did it a lot better, and we probably attacked a more fatigued Brentford side because they did go hammer and tong for that complete 45 minutes, which is maybe a bit of naivety that Brentford themselves need to roll out because it did come a cropper to them in the end. That's probably why they conceded the second goal, because they didn't have the, they didn't have the fatigue. They were fatigued. They didn't have the stamina to chase and get back, and that's what allowed Maddison and Daka to tear through a frail line because they went quick about it. The more direct approach probably showed what the shorter passing was supposed to do. It wasn't supposed to be a to Evans to Soyuncu out for a throw-in because Soyuncu can't organise his feet. I think it's more interpreted to be a here's a ball. Yep, that's it. That's work. That's dragged them out. Here you go, Samora. Here you go, Tillemans, Maddison. Get gone with it because we'll do them that way. But I see both sides of the argument, mate. I just try and cause a bit of balance.
No. It is only my opinion, and we disagree on a lot of things, as many football fans do. But it is all about opinions, and I totally respect yours, and I want you to oppose me a lot of the time because that's how these shows work. Soyuncu again, not I'm a little bit worried about him. He didn't have his best of games. Where Amati, my God, he's going to be hard to get him out of that position. He's playing so well.
Yeah, it was. And I feel a bit sorry for Soyuncu because considering, up until that corner, it was 1-0 to Leicester. He was the only one getting any slack. I know, like you said, and quite rightly, a few of his passes went out for throws in dangerous areas and he didn't quite all clear the way he wanted it to. And maybe the media are pressing hard on him because he is the one of the strongest starting 11 players, aside from Vestergaard, that gets a lot of stick. He was more in the eye for his errors, and and the more he keeps mislaying a pass and it keeps going out for a throw, the more it's easy to pick on him. I actually don't think he had a bad game. It certainly wasn't his best game, not by any stretch of the imaginations, but considering he's played in a defence where they've conceded 3, 2, 2 per game pretty much, apart from the only clean sheet we've had in the season, which was Wolves. That was probably the strongest defensive performance the team have put in because they restricted Brentford to just the one clear goal. I don't think he actually had that bad of a game. I just think out of the 3, he was probably the lower rated ones. I think he was. I just don't think he had as bad a game as people are trying to make out. Again, I think that's the press on the fact that he's not had the greatest start to the season. That's how.
I think as well, we increased our, we expect our standards are so high now that, when these players are having good games, like Maddison, Maddison is back for me, almost the old Maddison that we had. Wasn't allowed to do much today because that's the way that Brentford played. But my God, he was targeted for the fouls, wasn't he?
He certainly was. Again, it was like Maddison, and it was Maddison at his best because, you know, when Maddison's been off form and it's not been going right for him, you've seen him slump his shoulders, you've seen him throwing his arms in the air, you've seen him trudge back because he's still thinking in his head he should be having a free kick or he shouldn't have made that pass or whatever reason. And in that 5 to 10 seconds, you know, that's a player out of position. Now we've seen him getting the confidence. I think it was right, and I think, you know, credit again to Brendan Rodgers' man management for all the confusion we get sometimes with his lineups, and sometimes we disagree with what he's doing with who he's picking every week. He took him out of the limelight. He took the pressure off him. He's gave set pieces to other players and whatnot, and taken his trimmed his workload down a bit, and he looked good. Because, like you said, Chris, even though he couldn't do a lot in that first half, what he was doing was getting himself in between them Brentford midfielders and defenders and winning on fouls. He was doing what was required of him in the role he does. So it's credit both goes to Brendan and Maddison for the way Maddison's been in the last few games.
Totally. Can I just say on a side note, I say it's obviously now 3-0 to Liverpool. My prediction was 3-1. So in some ways I want Liverpool to stop. But if you can get another what am I looking at here, Liverpool, do us a favour now. If you can get another 3 goals, we will go above Man United. So just carry on. But you're getting sacked.
Didn't you all go for a Liverpool win in the predictions? Do you remember? I don't know.
I can certainly have a look. I've got a show coming up soon with our man Dan.
Your son.
My son, yes. We're doing an early sack race predictions, and I think Ollie, Ollie, you're gonna have to be watching out. You know,
ask the Spurs fans that thought Jose was such a bad manager, because I've seen a few Nuno outs, so you know. Well, I'll throw him down as my favourite to get the sack.
Nuno was choice number 13, I do believe, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, unlucky for Spurs. I need to get choice number 14 in by the sounds of things.
Oh, he could be up there. Right, let's have a look. What did you... And I'm not really enjoying looking at this because you're doing so well in it. You and me went for a Liverpool win, so that's not so bad.
Oh, well, that's up back then. That's up back.
That said, you went for a West Ham Tottenham draw, and I went for a Tottenham win. I should learn, shouldn't I? I should learn.
I should have a bit more faith in West Ham against them, but I just remembered the 3-3 game, and I thought if anything's going to happen, I was more happy to see West Ham win. To be fair.
That said, the biggest game of the weekend, although you wouldn't believe it, Leicester Brentford. Brentford equalised. They deserved it. You've got to say.
Yeah, I think it was very much a game where, you know, Leicester probably scored their first goal in a half. They didn't warrant it, and ironically, you know, Brentford were probably just starting to show they were running out of steam, and Leicester seemed to be dealing with Brentford a lot more comfortably. I think they were afforded a lot more time on the ball. Leicester they were creative a bit more, and then up popped a corner, and Leicester fans know as well as anybody that Leicester's probably biggest kryptonite is set pieces. They're defending them, and yet again it came a cropper for us. But yeah, Brentford did deserve to get a goal from the afternoon's play, and they deserved to be level. Not for long, mind, but they were level.
No, they were level. You then got, I think it was about 12 minutes, Perez due to come on, and well done, Maddison. You delayed that for us by scoring. We'll come on to that substitution in a minute. But we got that. I mean, the good thing for me is the wins, apart from the Man United game, the wins that we've got, which were sort of Brentford, Norwich, not Norwich, was it? Was it Norwich?
Yeah, we beat Norwich.
Yeah,
beat Norwich 2-1.
And Wolves, we didn't play that well. And I think it's a sign of a team which maybe is going to have something happen for the season when you're not playing well, and those are the games you're winning.
The best teams do it, mate. You know, and you don't just suddenly go from struggling in the first, I wouldn't say struggling, having an uneven first 6 games of the season. You can't suddenly as well as it looks on paper, and we'll look at Leicester's last 3 results and go, God, they've scored 10 goals and only conceded 6. You know, they've done really well. They're looking a lot better. Yes, it is, and that's a lot to do with confidence and the performance from the players out there. You can see they've raised their level. They've found a bit of confidence in that. But it's not something like watching Brazil all of a sudden. I know the scorelines might reflect that in a sense, but it still had its shaky moments in each of these three games, and all the games where we've won this season, they've had their shaky moments. It's just psychologically it's different because you feel that in the last 3 games, and I'm including the Europa League one in this, that Leicester looked more likely to win. They didn't really seem to look against Wolves. I mean, if Brentford had done to us what Wolves did on the opening game of the season, they wouldn't have had Adama Traore missing 7 open goals for them, and it would have been a different outcome. I think the psychological perspective of the last 3 games for Leicester is it's slowly getting better with each game that goes along. We're not going to get back to Leicester winning 5 and 9-0s and 4-0s just yet, but you know, each signs, and that's what's more promising, because you've got to keep this up over longevity. You don't want to, you know, be like a dry spell in a bedroom for a guy. You don't want to pop that load too early, do you? And suddenly it all comes crashing down.
I've
You don't
heard some comparisons, but that's up there with them, mate. You
yeah,
know.
but you don't. You want to keep building on this, and if they can get better and they put in another performance, I'm not. I was more worried about Brentford than I am against Arsenal. I will tell you that for free.
Yes. Apparently, Jeff's just said that Liverpool are now 4-0 up. So there's me 3 points gone for getting the correct scoreline. But I'm sorry, and I'm going to say, Hayden, have a safe journey down to Brighton. Hope you enjoyed the game, mate. Thanks for joining the chat. I think it's going to be this again. Ollie. Anyway,
Funny that, isn't it? We've scored 10 in our last 3 games. Manchester United have conceded 11. No, they've conceded 10 themselves, haven't they? No, 4. Yeah.
Talking of goals conceded.
2 more to go, Chris. 2 more to go and move up into 8th.
Yeah, no, hey. But no, I mean, as a season, we've scored 15 goals this season, which isn't bad in fairness. It's a good return, but we've conceded 15, and that is still the worry. And how long can we go on saying, yeah, we'll concede 1, we'll score 2. If we concede 2, we'll score 3. That defence is the worry, because we know Evans, I've been really impressed that Evans has managed to play 3 games on the trot like he has. But, you know, we know that he probably can't carry on like that. But having said that again, to remember that, Vestergaard had a good game when he came on.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything. Brookline will know because I've already mentioned it earlier. But I said get off his back, let him find his feet, get into a team. And the thing is I saw it when they conceded the goal. It seemed like Soyuncu, and I might have just misinterpreted what I seen, but Soyuncu was kind of like, no, come on, don't worry about it. It's a goal. We'll get, and that's just what I mean. Mentality comes, and just like bad form can make it run through the team. When your team's in good spirits, that confidence runs through you, and all of a sudden, a 15 million waste of sack of potatoes has just had a good 15-20 minutes and been vital in playing his part in watching Leicester see that game over the line. So,
yeah.
Thanks to all them that thought I was bonkers for defending. You know you are.
We know you're bonkers. 2 words: Macedonia, Norwich. We'll be back straight after this with the rest of the game.
It's the Premier League post-match show with Chris and Brad on Leicester Till I Die TV.
Daka should have got another, unselfishly passed it on to Maddison.
Yeah, he did, and it was great to see. I mean, like I said, there was no way he was missing that if he just chose to take it on himself. But it just shows how much he's all about the team. You know, sometimes you see a striker like that, and it's easy for them to be selfish and really live up to the hype and ego, which he's going to do. I'm sorry, he's going to do. And people can say I've got blue tinted glasses on. I don't give a monkeys. See, I'm learning, Chris, from the warning we've got. Don't give a monkeys. That guy's got 5 goals and 1 assist in 3 games, and he's just proving that he's not going to be the flop the Irish guy on YouTube said. He's going to be an absolute star at this club the way he's going, because you know a lot of people in that situation, maybe even Vardy would have done what Daka did there.
I was going to say, I think Vardy would have gone for the goal and probably scored. In fairness, but
yeah. And it's one of them you don't see enough in football, and it just shows again. It doesn't matter that it's an empty net. Maddison's got a goal, and his first goal in 8 months, and that will do wonders for him in a scruffy game when he's been getting the rewards, and they're starting to talk him up. You know, if he hadn't scored today, we'd be looking at maybe the Brighton in the cup game or the game at the weekend going. Now he needs to get them goals flowing. Well, now he's got one under his belt. He's ready. The team's going well. It's just what they needed. You know, it's Daka put the club before his own personal game, because he could have scored it. And I would have put, I haven't got much, but I'd put every penny and pound I have on him scoring that goal. Had he taken the chance himself. And it just shows the collective unit of this squad. And again, it shows what a difference a good result can do to you, because you know, does he miss that if he's not scored yet in the Premier League? Maybe he takes that chance because he's not scored, but because he's in such good form and the club is respectably, he did the right thing. He made 100% that, and it worked. It paid dividends in the end.
And I just think now, I mean, I actually regretted this possibly when I said it, and I said this again on Talk Sport this morning. That Man United result could be that line in the sand where we suddenly start to see our season take off. You know, it's difficult in Europe, but I honestly believe this is where we start to sort of play. Now, Brookline, we did touch on this before in previous shows, Daka or Edouard.
Who?
Do you need to ask? Exactly. I mean, I think, you know, us fans, we and I throw myself into this pot as well. You know, fickle is the word that's next to football fan in the dictionary. You know, Diabate was an amazing player because he got 2 goals in his first game against Peterborough, but Musa was rubbish, and yet he got 2 goals in his first game against Barcelona. Edouard got a couple of goals in his first game. Calm down, guys. Calm down. It's a long season. You know.
Yeah, it's a bit like Damari Gray at Everton. It's almost
yes.
Players can have spells.
Are we going to see the real Damari Gray, please? Here we go. This is the these are the stats here, because I know you love this, mate. But they actually you can see, you know, they dominated, but it's the main stat is obviously the fact that we had the ball in the net twice and only had it in the net once. But you know, it sums up Brentford. They're almost like the Leicester under Martin O'Neill, would you say?
I can definitely see the comparisons. I know we've made several comparisons, and again, the media have made several comparisons between Brentford and Leicester. All right, the media have maybe likened them to how they do their business in the transfer market, but I would agree. I think there's parts of times gone by that I've seen Leicester play, and many of us have seen play, where it's remembered of Leicester's nitty-gritty Premiership days, where they're not scared of anybody to come up with, and that's the attitude you should have, not a Norwich attitude. Yeah. You should have an attitude like Brentford if you're a team coming up, and you should go into a game thinking, I don't care if it's Newcastle, I don't care if it's Leicester, we're going for you, we want to win this game, we want to prove we belong here. And they gave a really great account of themselves. You know, it's very rare we see a performance, especially when Leicester win, that we give praise to the opposition for how they went about their business. And they're going to win more games than they're going to lose playing like that. I can tell you that much, because they do remind us of Leicester under O'Neill. They're probably, for the way they went about it and how many chances they created, they remind me of that period when Leicester pulled off the Great Escape. You know, when we lost to Arsenal 2-1. And again, another striker, certain Kramaric, scored on that day. And Arsenal players were coming out saying that we don't know how they're bottom and they're surely not going to finish there because of how they're going about it. They were relentless. And that's what I saw in Brentford. So, yeah, again, two different areas, but very similar to Leicester in some parts of how they go about their thing. And they will comfortably survive this season. I'd be very surprised to see Brentford go down unless their owner suddenly becomes a Watford brain and starts sacking people left, right and centre.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find it and I can't find it, but I have a feeling Ivan Toney, he's not been prolific, has he?
No, he has not. But
are you fingering me there, sir?
No, I got the bloody notifications pop up. So I won't finish you while I was swiping away there. Otherwise, I'll start a hell of a controversy. I think he's that striker that you saw by his headed chance and maybe his goal that was ruled out rightly for offside. He's not somebody who's going to do a Vardy or a Daka. And he's also not someone who's going to do an Iniacho. He's not necessarily going to come back halfway into your half and get the ball and lay it off to a Vardy to run onto. He's not going to sprint for 30 yards and beat the defender for pace. He's going to make a nuisance of himself once you're getting back in your defending areas, trying to defend the box. And he's going to pick his gaps wisely and score his goals that way. Callum Wilson-esque, sort of, if you want to compare him to a striker at Newcastle, in the sense that he'll probably get you 10 to 12 goals a season, but he's not going to do it at a rate where he might go 4 or 5 games where he doesn't score, then he'll get a goal sort of thing.
He's got 2 this season. The top scorer's got 5. So, you know, but
yeah,
I was expecting more of him. I'm not going to lie, but let's have a look at this because this is looking a lot easier on the eye now, isn't it? You know, up to 9th, unless Liverpool carry on, please do. We're up to 9th at the moment. This is probably changing, like I say, as we speak with the Man United Liverpool. But this is at the end of our game. Up to 9th over Arsenal, which is pleased to say. I think it's psychologically good coming up against them next week. But we're getting a few greens on the thing as well with a few wins. But 14th, 14 points. We're only 1 point off 6th place.
Yeah, and we're only 3 points off top 4. And again, I know that's a stretch right now. Left, teams like West Ham notably are in good form, and they're not. You're always needing to play catch up when you've had to start at Leicester have, but it just shows how tight this league is. And in fairness, with a lot of Leicester fans maybe thinking that we'd thrown caution to the wind in sense of we'd have one eye on really wanting to now push on after our FA Cup win to now push on and get a European trophy added to our glamorous cabinet. The Leicester are probably in and around the area they want to be for the entirety of this season. A point or so separating you from not making any European football to being well within European football. If Leicester can continue that, and hopefully they do, not just at the weekend, but first and foremost in the Carabao Cup. I think it's something that Leicester will be looking to. Unlike some teams nearer the end of the season, I think Leicester are a team that are going to kind of do what Chelsea did after they got rid of Lampard in a weird sort of way. They'll get in there, and when they get in there, you're going to find it very difficult to remove them from that area. And I think that's what Leicester will look to do over the next 5 games.
It's going to be nice for Leicester that we're not the one looking over our shoulder.
Yeah,
or who we've lost one, or they've caught up with us, or which we have done for the last couple of seasons, and obviously struggled with that. And we're the ones that are saying, "Don't feel we're behind you here. We're just waiting for you to go in for your pit stop, and we'll overtake you." But a question for you here, Brad, and I want you to respond to this. The game settled when Ioise came in and plays defence and moves the ball quickly. Surprise substitution, Madison, especially as he just scored. But what did you think when Perez came on? And did he change the game?
I think he's very much like for like now. I'm happy to say Perez has found his role at Leicester. It's not a right winger. It's not a striker. It's see the bloody game out and sit back. He doesn't need to be playing a forward role. He's never going to be, for me, he's never ever, unless he suddenly hits fire with form, he's ever going to be considered a player that I think is worth the money we paid for him. But as a squad player, he's doing a job. Well done, Mr. Perez. You did what was asked of you for the second time. You know, only another 57 more performances, and I'll give you more credit, mate. But well done, you did play well.
I did a show last night with a Newcastle fan, or Friday night. Sorry, losing my days. Friday night with a Newcastle fan talking about the takeover. You know, the links with Brendan, etc., and obviously half the team. And I did say to him, I said, you know, you've got so much money now. You know, will you not sort of be kind and take Perez back off our hands? You know, we're not going to ask for much. And unfortunately, he wouldn't. But I just want to say, guys, I did do my best. But they don't want him back, unfortunately. But like you say, Perez, it is that role that he plays with the same as Maddison. It is going to be either or, I think. And like you say, as part of the squad, I think that's sort of where he fits in. We're going to have a look in a second at some of the match stats and some of the players and how they did, and we will do that straight after a word from our friend. Or should I say, just say, like to drink.
All right, Chris. This is Neil Razor and Ruddock here. No, you're huge. A Leicester City fan. You run the website, Facebook, the Twitter site, Leicester Till I Die. That's what you are, Chris. Oh, Leicester Till I Die. I'm Leicester Till I Die. Anyway, Chris, well done for doing all the hard work for Leicester City. All the best, son. Neil Razor Ruddock. Aye, Chrissy. Aye.
He drinks plenty of water. He just has plenty of whiskey in it, I think. Neil Ruddock. It never fails to make me laugh. We'll have a look at the individual players in a second, and we'll go through it and see about the ratings and what have you. But I know you have already seen this. Alan, he's gone for Marty as man of his match, and he's given the manager 7 and the team 7. And looking at that, possibly given the manager, like you say, 7, 8, it's a point here or there. I don't think he's far off this week.
No, in fact, I think he's pretty much got it spot on. I mean, if you really want to boost it up, you could say it's 8, like you said, but it's a point neither here or there. Yeah. And this is nice to see a Marty get it for reasons he's really deserving. Normally, you know, maybe last year, especially if we was talking about an Amarty or a Mendy, to add to another one, we'd be talking about how surprised we were, and that's why we've given him the match, because it was surprising to see him have a good performance. You know, maybe we talked about it in the Community Shield, didn't we? It was surprising to a lot of fans of how well he did, and he's been consistent. And again, he's been a part of that solid back three for the last 3 games, and he's really warranted that, because that was a performance that was needed throughout the back line, and he's very deserving of man of the match. For it, because in a game where Leicester were under the collar for the majority of it, they needed at least 75% of their back 3 to step up and do a job. And to be fair, I think to a degree, all 3 of them did a very good job. And Marty deserved that, because someone who's been out for 8 games, doesn't play for 17 games, gets on because of a suspension, gets on because of an injury, doesn't play again. He must be feeling really good in himself, knowing that I keep performing, I keep getting these praises, I'm going to keep my team in this place. And it's just great to see.
It is. Shall we have a look at the sort of individual players? Do you want to do that quickly?
Yes, because I'm baffled by the BBC voters. I think some of our fans are a bit drunk. From what I've seen a bit. I've seen Vardy at the 7 and ahead of Amati, and that I'll get onto that in this because I'm not sure how that works out. But where are we starting?
Let's just put these players in then. So we had Castagna played. Let's just have a look here. Who should we start with?
Do you want to do it in order of how they come out? So Casper first.
Yeah, we can do Casper first. So where are we going with Casper?
I'm gonna give him a 7. He played his part in the goal. He actually got a kick right, so I should probably give him a 10, but I'm not. There wasn't anything he could really do about the first goal. That should be cleared by the defence. And he didn't really, after that Ivan header, have much to do. I think he had a good game, so I'm going to give him a 7.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. Let's just go down the list here. Oh, there are some strange scores on the BBC, aren't there? You know, Castagna.
7. I think he had very solid game. I know we're going to get onto him in a minute. I think both wing backs had a very solid game because they had a different role to play in big parts of that game. It was very more defensive minded and not as forward front as they'd like to be, and where we probably see them excel at the better. I think Castagna is warranted of a 7. I think Castagna did have a very good game.
Yeah. Amati, we put him there. What we're going to go for with Amati?
He's getting a 9. He's getting a 9. Yeah. He's getting a 9 because there's only one player I'm probably going to put up there with him or ahead of him when it comes to it.
No, I think he's deserved. And you know, we like you say, we're quick to criticise certain players, and Amati is one of them. But he deserves the praise when he gets it. And I think he deserves it today. The last few games, he has been immense. And I think the way you got to judge a player is how would we have been without him?
Well, we wouldn't have had him defend. Yeah, we'd have been crapping ourselves with Vestergaard. But then again, Vestergaard showed that maybe he wouldn't have had a bad game either. We don't know. So it was great to see. It was great to see.
Jeff, get in there, mate. He's catching up with Razor, he says. one more triples will do it. Then do a recording for us, Jeff. Do a Razor for us. And oh my God, Jeff, what is going on to Man United? 5-0 to Liverpool. We are going up the table if this continues. Ollie, your boys are taking a hell of a battering.
You know what? To quote Rio Ferdinand, whatever we're paying Tielemans, Man United pay Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Get him signed up, give him a lifetime contract. It's Ollie at the top, it's Ollie at the wheel. He's the best Manchester United manager since Alex Ferguson. Happy days. It couldn't happen to a nicer club.
We all think the same though outside Man United, don't we? We all think the same. I'm just looking there. Piera. Let's go for Piera next. Well, how would you give Piera?
Same as Castagna. He got a 7. Yeah. He had to do a lot more defensive work because of how Brighton played, and he did it well. Normally we probably
Brighton.
Brentford is what I meant. So don't swear at me.
No wonder we struggled. We were playing 2 teams.
I know, right? To come out of that 2-1 was really good. I know.
No wonder we didn't get to the ball first. You know what I mean? And we still won. Hey.
Yeah, well, that's what matters. Yeah, we beat 22 men. It's fine. No, he had a good game. Sometimes he might be criticised that if he gets too far forward, he gets caught out on that side. But I think he did his job well. And he realised what his job was. And I think he put in a solid performance.
I think this is a game, I think, that could have caught some players out. And, I think...
Yeah, and may I just say about Broughton and Albion, smug mode entered when Man City won 4-1. Told you they were crap and they were just getting lucky. Anyway.
I can say I'm not buying onto the Graham Potter bandwagon at all. Come back in a season or 2 when you've done something. Johnny Evans.
Oof. I'm torn between 2. I'm going to give him
an 8.
I'm going to give him an 8. Nah, I see what you did there. But I'm happy to have him in a 9 if people disagree with me. And the reason I say that is without his leadership, and we've said it time and time again to as Leicester fans, we've said it time and time again, how critical, how much of he's the biggest cog in that defensive unit for Leicester. He is critical to that defence doing its job. And the only reason I'm only putting him at 8 is I don't want to take the gleam off Daniel Amarty's performance, because he was just as good as a Johnny Evans in that back line, and that's why I'm going to. People say 9, totally agree with it, but for me, you cannot have a sturdy Leicester defence without that man in it.
I would agree wholeheartedly with you. Ronaldo doing it there.
Ronaldo.
Yeah, getting something in at the last minute. Oh, that was my favourite.
No, we want 7. We want 7.
Yeah. Oh no, it was offside. Jeff.
No, I want to say.
Jeff, you're suffering from premature elation there. Calm it down.
He must have been weighted by being in Evans's back pocket from last week, bless him. He still can't get out of
it. Use that cream I sent you. Okay. Samari, I'm not sure about his game here, to be honest with you.
We've skipped Solange, have we?
Sorry,
we've skipped Solange. I thought we was doing the back line, but it's all right. I'll do this one.
No. Let me find the Prince of Darkness. We'll do Solange. Sorry,
I'm gonna kind of put a defence on Solange here. I think it's easier to twist it when he's not been in the greatest form, and his errors have led to goals over the first 6 or so weeks of the season, and I'm going to give him a 7 because, yes, while it wasn't a pretty performance, it was another performance to me that showed he's slowly getting that confidence back. I mean, he had it battered out of him at the Euros. He had it battered out of him at the start of the season. He's not always been the front two man. And I think the media are sticking the knife in a little bit. And they've probably got a bit desperate today because Leicester only conceded 1 and he wasn't at fault for it. I think he actually had a decent game. In compared to Soyuncu's over the last few weeks, that was definitely a promising performance. That's why I'm going to give him a 7.
Yes, yeah. Samari.
I'm going to give Samari a 6, and I'm probably going to get shouted at here because there'll probably be a few people that are going to say no, Soyuncu's a 6, Samari's a 7. He didn't really have a bad game, but credit again to Brentford, he struggled in midfield along with the entirety of the midfield in the first half. But once that second half started and they got settled into it more, he did grow into the game and have a better performance.
Okay, let's have a look. I need new glasses. This is what it is with this thing, Mr. Madison.
I'm gonna give Madison an 8. I'm going to give Madison an 8 because for a guy who was double marked and for a guy who they clattered around the pitch and hadn't been getting our starting lineup until he was given the opportunity again against United, he's come on leaps and bounds. And like I agree with you, Chris, he seems back to himself. Even when we were struggling to contain the ball in midfield, every time Madison got it, he slowed Brentford down or he won a decision for Leicester, or he got the ball out of the dangerous areas. So, yeah, well played, Madison. Had a great game.
Yeah. Inacho?
I'm going to give Nacho a 6. Again, it wasn't his brilliant game. I'm not saying he didn't do too much wrong. I still think he made the runs and did the runs well, but he didn't have a moment that you could talk about, really, to kind of give it past the 6 for me.
Yeah. Jamie Vardy?
5. He came off injured. He came off injured. I'm not being harsh. You can't give any more than a 5 if you get taken off at half time. There's a reason you get taken off. You either have a bad game or you're injured. So it's pure and simple.
Indeed. And, you know, he was having a bad game. He had very few touches, but we know that can happen with him. But, you know, maybe if he was carrying an injury, that would explain it. Daka, his replacement.
I'm gonna give a substitute. Let's say Evan, and again, I'll give it the same thing as I do Evan. If people say he's an 8, I'm totally fine with it. I'm going to give him a 7 because he did exactly what he says on the tin. You leave me on the shoulder, I'll do the running work, and he did it. I'm going to give him a 7, and I think he did really well. I think he had a great game, and he's just loving life at the moment, and we're enjoying it with him.
Yeah. Vardy got 7.23 on the BBC.
Yeah, that was madness for me. Like, I think that's a lot of love for Vardy. I understand it, world-class player. I said I'll fight a man who said he's not a world-class Premier League striker, but he came off at half-time and didn't really do much in that first half. And he stay fit, he might have bagged in 2 goals and we talk about a 9, but he didn't. He came off. He gets a 5.
Yes. Yeah. 2 to go. Perez.
He gets a 6 for me.
Yeah.
He did what he needed to do. Didn't do anything glamorous, which is why the likes of him and Samore are here, but he did what he needed to do. He definitely didn't have a bad game. He just didn't have a lot of time really to do anything.
Yeah. And finally, your best friend, Vestergaard.
You know what? For the stick, I'm going to give him a 7. I think he came on and everybody... No, because everybody, and I think you may have even put it out in the post, Chris, everybody, and I think Terry commented the same. I got people mixed up in the comments. I'm sure I saw one that said when he came on, they held their breath. They took a sigh. They went, "Oh no, don't put him on." Even the commentators I were listening to were like, "Well, surely he's not going to put Vestergaard on and take Evans off." Thankfully, he didn't. In that sense, because I think Evans says the reason he is where he is so vital. But he came on. He shored us up. He made some great interceptions. He kept the result as it was. He deserves his 7. He had a very good impact game for us.
Yes. There we go then. That's your team marks there. So as I say, the big thing, of course, is the 2-1 scoreline. But thanks for that. And I think as we look at that, I think, and I say even, in fairness to Jamie, he was injured. It was as simple as that.
If he hadn't come off at half time, there's no way Jamie Vardy puts in a 5 out of 10 performance, is there? So it's literally just, I wouldn't give anyone else higher in that squad if they came off at half time. So why would I be objectively different just because it's Vardy? I'm not going to be, I'm afraid.
No.
Unless he scored a hat-trick, I'm not, before he come off injured, I'm not going to give someone anything higher than a 5 for coming off at half time.
It just gets better and better. Pogba's been sent off.
He's off to Juventus. He's off to Juventus.
Do you think that I did actually say the other day that Man United fans are turning into Arsenal fans at the moment? But Warren, good evening, sir, from down under. Good day. It's early down there. Thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you on. A much-needed result to keep us in touch. Go you mighty Foxes. Yes, indeed. Indeed, I can't argue with that. And I can't argue with this either, because coming up straight after this, we are going to have the man with the board. Yes, it is.
Yes, right. Let me move quick.
Here we go. Yes, it's Brad's tactical appraisal. He's going to look at the well, we haven't quite got the Sky graphics, but we've got a board, a man with board. Last time he was called that, Brad, he was outside with an A board walking around. So I will pass you over to our version of, well, I'm not sure if it's Gary Neville or Jamie Carragher. You make the choice.
I'm more of a Roy Keane.
Oh.
Thanks for that. It was a great show. No, I'm more of a Roy Keane without
language. Me and I removed you instead.
It's all right, mate. No worries. Yeah. So, where did Leicester win the game today? Apart from the obvious, if someone says they scored more goals than Brentford, But where they won the game today is the difference between this performance and performances gone by, i.e. Manchester United and against the team we played in Europe, who I've forgotten their name all of a sudden, is Leicester are probably used to seeing over the last 2 games that Leicester played a system, and that's just the manager. Don't mind him. He's going off for a pint. Is Leicester played the same formation that they have played with a 5 at the back, which went into a 4 in midfield on an attack. But what we were used to in the last 2 games is when it came to the attacking notion, is a defender would step out and a wing backs would help get forward, and that would allow the support for the Yuri Tillemans and Maddison to interact with the strikers, sort of like that. Last man, whether it's Vardy or Daka playing on the last man, Nacho could get involved in packing the midfield, and Maddison was free to allow the wing backs. Now, the thing is today, and I'm going to try and do this without, imagine we haven't got the midfielders and the strikers here to this part. What we saw today from Brentford was, to a man, they pressed Leicester, as Chris noted earlier. Very frustrating to see Leicester trying to play the ticky-tacky out the back football, because Brentford were pressed into a man. And what they also did is they then put 2 men in the gaps, which meant that, unfortunately for Leicester, and it showed a lot in the first half, that instead of being in a more advanced midfield position, which is where they were, and just allowing Samore to deal with it, because they were also holding the line. And an interesting thing is their attacking play was very widespread when they were pressing, which meant that the likes of Tillemans and Maddison had to go even deeper into the half, which also meant that Iniacho and Vardy or Daka had to also bring themselves into our own half. And what that did is that unfortunately is why I thought it was great, because what it did is it neutralised, the lines, that if Leicester could get the ball into them areas, that they would get free, because obviously then you'd be in a foot race down the wings. You'd be able to use Nacho, was then more seen as the guy to run into the space when available to help Leicester break out and get in behind the pressing lines, get into these areas and catch Brentford out. And that didn't work. That worked to a degree in stopping the relentless Brentford get in, but it also caused us the problems. This is why Brentford came in at half time having 9 chances to our 2. But what mattered at that point for Leicester, and what was really ideal in the way Leicester soaked up the pressure through that system and playing the defensive wing back, was it allowed Leicester to have more conserved energy. It allowed them to have men behind the ball, so that every time that Brentford did get the ball in and behind, as we saw a lot, and one stat that I did like from today's game, which shows Leicester's ability to switch it up and read the game well, is they knew that when Brentford were going to get the ball, they was going to try and get in behind. They was going to try and get in there. They was going to try and play ball through the middle, and they was going to attack. And what that allowed Leicester to note and do, and they did it very well, is, and especially you saw it in the second half, is they caught Brentford on a higher line in the second half. It's almost as if they absorbed the life out of Brentford, took the pace out of their midfield and constant attacking. Because at some points, let's be honest, Brentford had 4 or 5 men in attack. And what that higher line did, and what that did to a midfield that became more of a solid 3, is it also then freed Leicester up to play their wing backs in the role they're more preferred, sitting more in front. So when them balls were launched up to the target man, Ivan Toney, or they were played out wide to Rico, it was way too late. Leicester had already made the moves, and regardless of where they played that ball in, Leicester were having a little linesman going, "You're offside." And that's why Leicester changed it up in the second half. People might have been disappointed and annoyed and frustrated with how many chances Brentford were coming to having, especially in that first half. But as you've seen by the stats of the game, and I know people say, "Brad, I'm with you though, but stats don't always tell the story." They kind of do in that sense, because in the second half, Leicester were able to reshape, get back into that knowing shape, and they were able to pick Brentford off, who were still committing to a man. They were still committing to a man and trying to fill the gaps, but they were doing it at a higher line up the pitch. And what that then allowed is Leicester were able to receive the ball, and even if Tillemans was closer to Samore, and Maddison was more further forward, it allowed Leicester to pick the ball up and start their attack already on the front foot. And that's where they inevitably got the goal, because Brentford were caught out pressing the high line. And what did that allow? That allowed Yuri Tillemans with defence holding a deep line, but leaving gaps because they were down on numbers, Brentford. Because again, like I said, they'd committed 6 to 7 men in their attacking orders, which allowed Maddison and Yuri to link up, to play the ball into Daka. And at that point, because he'd been able to peel off from his man, Maddison was there, ball was played across, and Leicester won the game with an easy, simple goal. And if Leicester continues to do that against these oppositions, and it shows that their tactical understanding and the work they do not just off the pitch, but the coaching staff do, it's imperative that Leicester fans are a bit patient and don't get on the backs if they see it in home games, because it showed with that performance as a whole that Leicester were very well drilled, very well prepared, and very much committed to absorbing what Brentford had to offer. Because we've seen Brentford, they scored 3 past Liverpool, they should have scored 3 or 4 past Chelsea. They beat Arsenal very, very convincingly. Let's just get this back to how we actually lined up. And Leicester knew what they were coming in for. And while the first 45 minutes felt like we were robbing a bank free of charge and weren't getting chased by the police coming in 1-0, what it did create was the goal. It created that, because if you press, if you're told as a midfielder you've got to run, you got to go back, you got to run, you got to go back, you got to run, you got to go back, you got to run, you got to go back, you got to run, you got to go back. Eventually, come the 60th, 70th minute, you're going to be on your arse and you're getting caught out. And they got caught out in these areas. These are the areas where Leicester caught them out, and maybe to a point in here in their shape. But these 2 areas on their presses where Leicester caught them out vitally. They had chances before the goal, but it cleverly played its part in the goal, because all of a sudden, like we saw on Wednesday night, all of a sudden, Daka was and ended up being one simple pass away from being through on goal. And that's exactly what it does. And much praise as we give to Daka. His unselfishness, is what provided the simplest goal Leicester are going to score all game. And that, Chris, and to anyone that's still watching, is exactly why I think Leicester might see him as fortunate with their performance, but they actually weren't that fortunate. It was very smart, tactical awareness from Brendan and the staff to prep them guys to play a 90 minutes of football like that. And that's why Leicester won the game today.
There we go. Expert opinion. Like I said, I don't know if it's James Roy or whoever it is. Who's the guy that was on Sky Sports? Oh, Paul Merson. I think it's more Paul Merson. Anyway, Brad's off to have a quick rub to clean his board. I should have had to clean his board. Terry says I get dizzy watching Brad's pen, but very good insight. And Jeff says, enjoy Brad's tactical analysis. Hopefully by the end of the season, I will understand more. It is good. It is a great insight, and it shows he knows what he's talking about. That, I think, is where we go. A quick look at the weekend scores. I was about to say, although it wasn't a surprise, it probably was the biggest scoreline of the weekend, Chelsea 7, Norwich 0. I think that just kind of sums up, because it was top against bottom, it does kind of sum up where Norwich are and what the big gap, the gap between the bottom and the top, which we've always said was getting tighter unless Norwich come up. You know, Norwich, just don't bother next time. If you go back down, stay down, please, because you know. I mean, I like these smaller clubs coming up, like the Brentford doing well, etc., etc. But you're just wasting a space. You really are. Newcastle managed to get a point post Steve Bruce. Watford. I mean, I don't think that necessarily tells all the story, but Ranieri there, Watford 5-2 over Everton. You score 5, we'll score 5. Well done to Ranieri and Watford. I still don't think you'll be there at the end of the season, mate. Leeds buggered up my prediction, getting a point. Burnley, just honestly, Burnley players never have a dog because you can't hold on to a lead. Man City doing what we know Man City can do. Arsenal, of course, on the Friday beat Villa 3-1. Apparently Villa were awful. I didn't watch the game, but obviously we've got Arsenal up next. And West Ham today beating Tottenham 1-0. Thanks to Brad. Thank you very much, young man.
No worries, mate. My phone cut out there, so I didn't hear what Terry said. I didn't hear that point that was made.
You didn't hear what Terry... I can certainly bring it back up for you, he says, hopefully. Here we go. He said he gets dizzy watching your pen, but very good insight.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you.
Yeah. Big Crom says, teach on, Brad. Yeah, he's actually got a ski school uniform on at the bottom half. We won't go there, though, you know. Brad, if you can stay behind post-show, because I just want to ask you a quick question, but you've as good as ever. Thank you so much for that. 3 points in the bag. Your board is amazing, sir. And hopefully see you a bit during the week.
Yeah, hopefully, mate. It'll be good to see. And thanks for everybody for tuning in. And as always, I've enjoyed it, mate. I've enjoyed it.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Speak to you in a second. Take care, mate.
No worries. Take care.
Okay. Oops. There we go. That's it. 3 out of 3. 3 on the bounce. Can we make it 4? We got Brighton midweek. But this is what we've got coming up next. We're going to be back tomorrow night at 7 o'clock with Ivan, who's a Brentford fan. He'll be coming on to have a look back at the match with us. I know he's a bit upset that they didn't get anything from today's game. That is the reality, unfortunately, of the Premier League. We're going to be back a lot during the week. We've got so much going on, you wouldn't believe it. I've got more shows that I know what to do with. But and don't forget, Tuesday, you can tune in again to the BBC Leicester City website homepage, and you'll see my thoughts on the past week in the life of Leicester City. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining in. Thanks to Brad, as always. Great insights there. We'll see you tomorrow at 7. Don't forget, if you want to catch up on this, get over to YouTube. You can watch it on Catch Up. We don't have a +1. Well, maybe around my waist, but we don't have a +1 channel. YouTube, and give us a subscribe. We would be forever grateful for that. And if you want to listen to us, over 10,000. It's crazy, man. Over 10,000 listens on our podcast. This will be up live on the podcast in about 10, 15 minutes. Amazon, Apple, Google, Anchor, Spotify, and Podcast Addict. Or if you're on, of course, smart speaker, just ask it to play podcast Leicester Till I Die. How the devil have you all been? I hope you've had a good day. I hope you've enjoyed the show. We will see you tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Stay safe, guys.
That's all, folks.
Hello, Matt Elliott here. Be sure to watch Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and follow all their social media platforms for all the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Listen on your favourite podcast platform
Or ask your smart speaker.
to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow, and join in now.